Yo guys, what is good? Welcome back on the Uncle Sharma channel. You know what time it is. I've been promising it, and here it is, the Marcus Thuram scout report. After multiple confirmed reports, it's time to discuss the potential move of Thuram to Inter. He's available on a free at the end of the season, so obviously guys, there's going to be lots of competition for this guy. Many clubs are interested. He may or may not end up at Inter, so this scout report may end up being useful for fans of other teams. As we know, as Inter fans, if we're interested in the player these days, it doesn't always mean that we end up getting him, but he's too much of a good opportunity to not talk about him, and also for Inter to let go of him without actually fighting for him and trying to get him. So without further ado, let's get into it. First of all, who is Marcus Thuram? Well, born in Parma, Italy, of course, on August 1996. Marcus is a 1m92 or 6'3", and he plays as a forward/winger for Borussia Mönchengladbach in Germany. And of course, he's also a French international, and he's part of the French national team who is in Qatar at the moment, has already got a few minutes as a sub. And the boy, of course, has football in his blood. If you didn't know, he is the son of Lilian Thuram. Ask your elders about him, who Lilian Thuram is, one of the greatest defenders of all time. While Marcus may not have inherited, the defensive style, or, being a defender or enjoying defending, he's definitely inherited the physicality, that monstrous physique. You're definitely not winning a shoulder-to-shoulder battle with this guy. Now let's talk about his career. He started his career at Sochaux in Ligue 2 in France, climbing up the ranks in Sochaux till making the first team. And then he got his first big break at Guingamp in Ligue 1, where he scored 12 goals in 64 appearances. And then in 2019, this earned him a move to Gladbach in Germany, around a 12 million euro move. And now this is where really he starts to make a name for himself, primarily playing as a left winger, but also playing up front, and depending on the formation that Gladbach play, on the 4-2-3-1 on the left, or up front in one of the two striker positions, which shows his versatility. But Marcus made himself known for his power, his speed, his dribbling, his creativity, goals. Marcus has the full package that you need from an attacking player in the modern game. In his first season, he puts up 14 goals and 9 assists from 38 appearances. Not too shabby at all. The season after, he has similar numbers: 11 goals, 12 assists in 40 appearances, and especially the Champions League performances from him catch the eye, especially against Inter. You guys might remember a couple of nice performances against Inter. He won a penalty against Inter at the San Siro, and against Real Madrid, where he scored against them as well. In the summer of 2021, multiple teams were interested in him, and one of those teams was Inter. And Inter, with multiple confirmed reports about this, and confirmed by our own sporting director Piero Ausilio, had pretty much a deal agreed with Gladbach and the player. Terms were agreed. All was left with the player's signature, but unfortunately Thuram got injured, a minor rupture in one of his ligaments of his knee, which ruined Inter's plans to sign him. And then obviously we know the story. Inter opted for the targets. They tried to go for Zapata, Belotti, and then ended up with Tucu Correa, overpaying for Tucu Correa, 31 million signing. But at the end of the day, Marcus himself that season, even after he came back from injury, really struggled. Only scored 3 goals in that 1,000 minutes. But fast forward to this season, and Marcus is having his best season yet. 10 goals in his first 15 apps in the Bundesliga. Currently, he's sitting on 13 goals, 7 assists in all comps, and that is almost 1 contribution a game. He is running at an elite level at the moment. He's not switching back and forth between wing and striker anymore now. He's a full-time striker now, not part-time striker anymore, and that's clearly benefited him, and he looks like he's taking his striker game to the next level. His hold-up play now is better. His back-to-goal play is now better. His link-up play is now better. Obviously, his physique helps a lot with that. He's improving, but he still needs to improve in the air, because his aerial duel percentage of 46% is pretty low, but he has the ability to score from headers, as you can see. Having spent most of his career as a flary attacking winger, you can see he really shines in transition, in open space. And what's one thing that Inter are crying out in this team? Speed. And I'm not talking about the YouTuber, I'm talking about pace, and this guy has bags of pace. In fact, he has recorded the second highest top speed in the Bundesliga after Alphonso Davies, clocking in at 35.7 kilometers an hour, and that there's no way to put it in any other way. That is rapid. He's able to punish teams with his pace, and a perfect example of that is his goal this season against Dortmund in transition, in open space, punishing that, let's be honest, very stupidly high defensive line from Dortmund there. I don't think you're going to see defensive lines like that if he comes to Serie A for sure, especially in the 35th minute. But he also showed that against Bayern as well. This guy can outpace even the likes of Upamecano. Now, let's do a stats deep dive. Let's go into the nitty gritty of his stats, starting off with his heat map. And you can see his heat map is showing that transition I was talking about in terms of becoming more of a real striker, a central striker. You know, if you look at the heat maps from previous season, you can see the tendency to drift out to the left. You can still see it in the current heat map because he is very much right-footed. He likes to drift out to the left-hand side so he can cut in with his right. But that heat map to me shows the heat map, or I would imagine, you know, a second striker, you know, the guy next to Lautaro, let's say if we're talking about Inter, the guy in behind creating, drifting around. But I think his long-term potential is clearly being that main guy up front. So even a long-term potential replacement for Lautaro if he ever does leave. What's another thing that Inter need in this team? A dribbler. Everyone knows, even since the Antonio Conte days, even when we had Perisic, we always really lacked a dribbler in the team. And Thuram is that. That's another thing that he can add. He's in the top 10 percentile of forwards in the top 5 leagues in Europe when it comes to dribbling, as you can see from his FBF numbers. 1.73 dribbles per 90 completed, with an above 50% success rate, which is really, really high, and is much higher than any other Inter player. He's not got any competition in terms of that. And his dribbles actually lead to something concrete. He's not a guy to just dribble for the sake of dribbling. 0.62 shots created from his dribbles, 0.08 goals coming from one of his dribbles. And his style, he can look a bit languid, you know, he's a bit leggy, obviously he's quite tall, so he can look a little bit awkward, but you have to remember his size and his weight, so he can look a bit clunky, but it's an effective clunkiness. The goal threat, of course, we mentioned earlier, it currently is running at an elite level, ranking in the top percentiles for everything from goals, XG, shots per 90. The question is, though, can those numbers translate from, you know, the more open, more attacking Bundesliga to a more closed tactical league like the Serie A? That is probably the main question mark I would have with Marcus. But in my opinion, Inter being a very high chance creation team, you see all the Inter strikers all have high XGs. Even, you know, the substitutes like Correa managed to put up numbers when they have minutes. This is a team that creates chances, and I think in a team like Inter, especially under Inzaghi, I think he'll be feasting regardless. Injury history. Okay, now this is an interesting one because obviously Inter recently, we've been a little bit burned, haven't we, when it comes to strikers and the injury issues. Lukaku, Correa, of course. So let's see, in terms of Marcus here, I'm pulling up the Transfermarkt report of his injury history. And the main worry is around that ligament injury, the one that, you know, scuppered his move to Inter in 2021. Although it was a minor rupture, it wasn't like a major ACL or anything, but these things can linger. But aside from that, he doesn't seem to be particularly injury prone. I mean, he has, you know, 1 or 2 muscular injuries a season, but, you know, I don't think that's particularly much of an issue. But you can never predict these things as well. So I always say that it's not an exact science, but there's nothing too alarming to look into when it comes to his injury history. Now, obviously, it sounds like I'm massively fully on the Marcus Thuram train, that I am, but there also are downsides to Thuram. As any other player, he isn't the most clinical player in front of goal, and obviously, you know, like we've got Lautaro already and Dzeko already. Like, is this the guy we need? But ask you know, his numbers this season might not show that, but ask Gladbach fans, you know, they will tell you when he gets in front of the goal, he's not the most reliable, he's not the most you know, clinical finisher, but he looks like he is working on that, improving on that. His decision making also can be frustrating, you know, being a flary winger, you know what those guys are like, those types of players. They can drift in and out of games. Sometimes they can do one dribble too many or be a little bit too individualistic, drift out of games, or have, you know, inconsistent bouts of form, which is you know, perfectly normal. But he is a guy coming into his prime at 26 years old, so hopefully, you know, that's another step that he's ready to take in terms of becoming a top player, and something that maybe Inzaghi and the coaching staff can work on. There's a slight behavioral concern I have, and this dates back to when he was given a 6-match ban for spitting on Stefan Posch, who actually is the right back who plays for Bologna now. And he was fined for this. Hopefully that kind of thing is behind him, but it is a little bit of a red flag for me. But again, he was a little bit younger than a couple of years ago. But he does seem to be a very positive and funny character around the dressing room, on social media as well. And some of his celebrations have been going viral, like the one he does with the corner flag, and the ice cool, blood pressure checking celebration, similar to Correa, Correa injects it, but this guy is just checking his pulse. So to wrap up, Marcus Thuram, an athletic specimen with dribbling ability, and most importantly, final product. What's not to like, guys? As we mentioned at the beginning of the video, his contract expires at the end of the season, so he is a massive, amazing free transfer opportunity available at the end of the season. But the thing is, you don't want to get into a wage war, bidding war with the likes of Bayern, with the likes of Statistical or Premier League team, because they will outbid a Serie A team like Inter. The best option is what the reports are saying, that Mönchengladbach would be willing to accept around a 10 million euros fee to sign Marcus in January if you want. Can Inter do that? Can Inter financially be able to do that? I don't know. I don't think so. I would be surprised if we're able to pull something like that off. We have done it in the past in the case of Eriksen, but that was in different financial circumstances for Inter. If it was up to me, as I said, I would pull the trigger instantly, because I don't want to get into a bidding war with the likes of the Premier League teams and Bayern, of course, because you can't compare or compete with them on a financial basis as well. But if Bayern come in, you just go to the best team in Germany, why not? But of course it's Inter, so things are never easy. Of course, I want to know your opinions, guys. I know a lot of the fan base does want him, but I want to know your thoughts in terms of this scout report and what you think he can bring to Inter. What do you think his weaknesses are? Some of you guys that may have watched Bundesliga more than me. I watch Bundesliga sometimes, but not that often. I did more of a deep dive, going into some videos and clips of Marcus Thuram for this video specifically. But I'm not claiming to be a Bundesliga expert, so I'm looking forward to your opinions. He ticks too many boxes. I hope he ends up in black and blue. Make sure you leave a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, let me know your thoughts down below. Ciao ragazzi, forza Inter!